All right, we are live. Hey everyone, Courtney McKenzie Newell here, CEO of Crowns Marketing and Communications, and the founder of the Future Proof Academy, where we help entrepreneurs and executives become the most go-to in-demand industry experts. Now, today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is all around virtual speaking engagements, specifically how you can use those to build your brand. Now, last week we talked about hold on, it looks like my connection's a little iffy. So last week we talked about the importance of executive branding and why it's really important to make sure that you focus on it in 2021. Now, today we're going to go, and if you haven't seen that episode, make sure that you watch that one. But today we're going to talk about the importance of building your brand through virtual speaking engagements. Now, I know a lot of people, I've heard this so many times, they're like, Courtney, I'm tired of virtual meetings. I don't want another one, but I want to reframe the way that you think about virtual events. And if you're with me live, let me know in the comment section. I would love to give you a shout out. All right, because I can't necessarily see everyone who's live, but I see that you're live with me. All right. So one of the things that I hear a lot is, I don't really love the idea of doing virtual events anymore. Like I'm in Zooms all day. I'm on Microsoft Teams all day. And those meetings are definitely important. So, we have them internally as well. But what I want to challenge you to do is think about the ways that you can leverage virtual speaking engagements. Now, as a branding and marketing agency, we regularly pitch our clients to get featured and become speakers at different events, conferences, feature them on media outlets and things like that. But what's happened is that every single event, virtually every single event, especially the larger events, have all gone digital. And while some people really miss the feeling of being in a room and on a stage, I actually think it's been beneficial to have most of the events go virtual. And this is why. It's really allowed people who may not have been able to physically attend. Now it gives them an opportunity to attend. What we found is that the events that we host and the events that we have our clients speak at, or we help our clients to host, we're finding that those events are actually being more well attended because so many more people can check in virtually versus, let's say you have an in-person event. Typically the tickets are a lot more expensive. People have to factor in travel costs and things like that. So now it's really leveled the playing field. So I want to talk to you specifically about the 3 ways, if you haven't been thinking about it, the 3 ways that you can, I can't see your name, but hey, it just says on the back end of the streaming, it says Facebook user. So I can tell you're with me. I just can't see your name, but hey, I'm so glad you're here with me live. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 ways that you can really build your brand through virtual speaking. The first, and probably the one you're thinking, is online summits. Now, online summits are a great way for you to be able to build your brand, because not only are you able to get in front of your target audiences, because there's so many virtual events happening every single day of the week in every single industry, but you're also able to really be able to tap in and build rapport online in a virtual space, which is unlike anything that we've been able to do before. Typically, you go to an in-person event, the connection ends there. But when you're online, you can say, hey, let's connect on Facebook. Hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. Hey, let's connect on Instagram. And you can continue the conversation naturally and more seamlessly. So that's one of the great benefits about online summits and just speaking virtually in general. So when it comes to online summits, I first want you to think about industry associations that are already hosting events. Now, a lot of industry associations, most of them, if not all of them, are having webinars. They're having their annual conferences or their quarterly conferences virtually. So I want you to be thinking about the ways that you can create a session that they would be interested in and you actually presenting that to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be one that just features you and it's a solo speaking engagement, but it could be a panel, it could be a Q&A, it could be a solo session. But really, I can tell you that all of the events, all of the associations are always looking for really amazing sessions. And if you are the one to provide that session for them, you have made their lives a lot easier, okay? Number two is podcasts. Now, podcasts are a great way and probably one of the most underutilized tools to build your brand through speaking engagements. And when it comes to podcasts, there are really two ways to think of it. One is by being a guest on other people's podcasts. Okay, there are thousands of podcasts out there. And one of the best ways, whether you're a podcast host or whether you're a podcast guest, is to go on other people's podcasts. And then also by allowing them to be guests on yours. Now, this is two sides to a different coin, actually. The first part of it is when you're a guest on someone else's podcast, first, you'd make sure that it's a targeted industry and it has your target audience listening and tuning in. The great thing about podcasts is that people are tapped in. They love the podcast. And what happens with that is that you're really able to build rapport with the host and all of the listeners. So it's really important to think about it from that perspective. The next thing that you want to think about is having your own podcast. Now, I've had a podcast for the last 7 years, possibly. It's been a very long time. But the reason why is because podcasts are a great way to build your own community, and it's a great way for you to build rapport with people who you actually want to work with or people who you would love to build a connection to. So it's always really great to make sure that you have that going with you. And then the last thing is you want to make sure that when you're thinking about building your brand, you're also focusing on the social media speaking platforms. Now, Clubhouse is one of the newest platforms out there. A lot of you all have, a lot of people are on it already. It's one of the fastest growing social media networks right now. It is only for iPhone users right now. So if you're not team iPhone, then you may want to use another Apple device like your iPad. But either way, Clubhouse is a great one. Having IG lives or Instagram lives, LinkedIn lives, Facebook lives, these are all really great ways for you to be able to build your brand using virtual speaking engagements. So again, let's do a really quick recap. One, it's so important to make sure that you're leveraging online events to build your brand. You want to make sure that you're really specific in the outlets that you're reaching out to, making sure that they're in your target demographic, that you can speak confidently and comfortably on those topics that you're going to be presenting. And you also want to make sure that you are considering what kind of style it's going to be. Is it going to be a panel style? Is it going to be a Q&A style? Is it going to be a one-on-one style? Like, what is the style of the panel going to be, and what are you most comfortable with? This, when it comes to the actual speaking engagements, I want you to think about online events. Number one, the biggest one. Number two, podcasts, either being a guest on podcasts or hosting your own podcasts. And three, leveraging social media. This is a speaking engagement right now, right? So think about how you can leverage things like tools and social media platforms like Clubhouse, like Instagram Live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, and whatever platforms, and also YouTube Live, and whatever platforms are best for your audience. But it's really important to not overthink it and just get started and really take that imperfect action. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Marketing Mondays, and I will see you on the next one. But before you go, speaking of virtual events, I am actually hosting our very own virtual online event where we will be interviewing some of the most amazing entrepreneurs and executives at the second Future Proof Virtual Summit. And this one is specifically celebrating Black History Month. So if you're interested in joining us next Thursday, February 25th, you can head over to thefutureproofsummit.com. All right, I'll see you there. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.